Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Measure Twice, Cut Once. My name is Mike. I'm one of the co-hosts, and we're going to go on a journey today and talk about some really cool stuff in construction and design.
And I'm Jennifer Lee, Mike's co-host for Measure Twice, Cut Once. And just a reminder, make sure you follow us on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we have a really cool episode today. We have three legends among us. We have a local legend and two people who occupy a little bit bigger space in the public view. But nonetheless, the reason that all of them are at the position they are is because they're so good at what they do and they're so free and willing to share their accumulated knowledge. And that's why we love having them back. So please welcome Graeme from My House Design.
Great to be here.
And of course, Bryan and Sarah Beaumler of Stack TV fame. We're going to talk about how design and performance work hand in hand, thinking about style without compromise, and creating homes and buildings that feel as good as they look.
And finally, another woman with these guys. And Sarah, I'm so happy. As much as I've loved Bryan, Mike, and Graeme over the last 2 years, I'm really happy to finally have some woman energy in here.
I'm here in the middle. I'm right back in the middle here. But yes, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
We were overpowered with the female energy before. Now we're really overpowered.
Here we go.
We're balanced, not overpowered.
This is going to be great because we have builders and designers and design builders across from us. So we're going to be able to triangulate all their points of view. And then that good stuff in the middle is like a Venn diagram of this is what you do moving forward.
Yeah.
So, of course, Bryan and Sarah, welcome, and Graeme as well. Sarah, being first time here, and we don't know you as well as perhaps we should. Can you give us a little background on yourself? What do you do, and what gets you up in the morning and gets you excited throughout the day?
Wow, you don't know me. I feel like everyone knows sort of what we do. We are very good.
No, not we. No, we. You didn't say we.
Well,
we say you,
what our life is all about, because we've been showcasing it now for 20 years on television. But if you don't know, obviously, I do co-host some of our shows with my husband, Bryan. I really focus on the design side of all of our projects. That is my love and my passion. And that extends now really into hospitality, into products, into just building our brand and around what a healthy home is all about.
It's so funny because I feel like I really relate to you guys, and because my family was builders, and so I grew up in it. And so when I was watching some of your stuff to prepare for this, it's so fun because you talked about having one of your homes and then you're like, oh, we were only going to do this small renovation. And then all of a sudden it turned out to a bigger one. I said, that was my life for 27 years. I think my house was in constant reno.
Exactly. And I don't think it ever ends, even now, sitting here today. We were just talking earlier, and Bryan's like, oh, when we get back, I want to work on this, or I want to work on that. There's always things that you want to continue to improve upon in your own home and lifestyle. I think it's normal for every family.
She grew up in a building family, so she knows the discussion was like, oh, when I get home, I really love to do this. It was an argument about what we're going to finish
and what we're going to do
when we get home.
I didn't grow up with build. I'm not a builder. Is that the case? I always hear the cobbler's shoes go unfinished. Is you guys are always focusing on other people's houses? Is that an impediment to doing your own homes because you're burnt out mentally at the end of the day?
Well, it is because there's so many distractions and other things to do, and that's not only business and traveling and Bahamas, you name it, but there's 4 kids and there's lives and there's hobbies and friends and so, I'm always like, Sarah, you just order these cabinets for the mudroom so I can finish that room. And we need one more slab door. But I was looking at this and that. I'm like, then it becomes like, just order it so I can do it. And she's like, well, I'm not ordering. I have other things to do. And then,
I'm having deja vu
then I'm on
now.
the
This is what it sounded like growing up.
Yeah. True. And as the industry changes, I think we also want to try things. That's part of it, right? It's like you see things that are happening, you want to integrate them into your own home, and you're like, oh, if I'm going to put this forth for a client, I want to try it. I want to understand it. And then it just escalates, and you're always renovating.
I think you're right on, because that's the one thing I noticed too. My parents, you can never take them out of it. They're retired now and they have a newer condo. They bought brand new. And what was the first thing they did? They ripped everything out and renovated. And I was like, they're not happy until they're renovating.
I think that's what we say
so
too.
My first piece of real estate that I purchased for myself was here in Vancouver at Davie and Seymour in the Space Building. And it was, sub penthouse, 800 square foot bachelor pad of glory, white drywall backsplash in the kitchen and the white cheapest cabinets possible and the laminate flooring. And when Sarah, a few years later moved out to Vancouver, with me back out to Vancouver, she walked in there and said, "We're going to renovate this condo." And all of a sudden I'm ripping walls out and I'm cutting holes in the walls and I'm renovating the kitchen and the floor. And we have a great picture of us sitting on the floor of the condo there.
Eating dinner, like no furniture around us, mid-construction.
Bachelor pad destroyed.
I don't blame her though, because you just said bachelor pad of glory as your description.
Yeah.
So I imagine her first words when she came in was like, yeah.
Yeah, but some things need to go.
So, Graeme, did you do that with your first place as well? Do it all by yourself, or were you building at that time?
Yeah, our first home that we rented, then bought, and then renovated, and then we rebuilt completely.
Okay.
And then we were in that home for half of our family's life, and then moved to our current home. And but the sad part is we left a finished house. And so people didn't like the idea that I was moving to a different home because, of course, I had these ideas and what we wanted to do. And one of the things we had planned was to go to Europe as a family. And just as we were going to be moving in and in construction. And so I had a large retainer wall gate being put in and built at the time. And we came back from Europe, and as we turned around the corner, and we had just gone to France, my son-in-law at the time looked at all the construction going on. He goes, "Look, it's Versailles." And all the kids started to cry because to them it looked big and ostentatious. And, and so they've grown up around it. They've seen things take place. Some of it they haven't liked. Some of it in the end they like, but going through the process, not so much.
See, builders aren't happy till they're renovating or building.
But it's also good because those of us who aren't builders, like when we went through our renovation, it was not a good process. We didn't know about podcasts like these, and I wasn't part of this industry. And I think if you do it every day, you almost take it for granted. This is simply how the process goes. And you can't necessarily empathize with the homeowner who's in the middle of it and has questions. They don't know why the city delayed it or this had to change or that had to change. So do you find that living in those renovations, especially early in your respective careers, gave you a greater sense of empathy for the people you're now working with to bring their homes to life?
I feel like we're trauma bonded with our customers. Yeah, I mean we've certainly been through it ourselves, and I think it's going through the design process with someone. We've been through it so many times in our own properties that it's easy to relate and share with the customers. Like, we've been there too. We're not just you don't want to go to a dentist that's never had a cavity kind of thing, You want them to understand the pain a little bit of what they're about to go through, and we've certainly experienced our fair share of construction pain.
And of course, it wasn't, well, I don't know. I know you had some trials and tribulations, so maybe not painful is the right word, but of course you have Sur La Mar that's been up and running now for over 5 years now, because you guys opened during COVID.
Yes, we had our sort of
week
soft
before
launch.
COVID. Yeah. Some of the best, in history, some of the best timing of our lives.
Yes, March 13th is forever ingrained. That was the day our staff
Let's
is
open
all
the
new,
hotel.
and we had to stand out back with them all and say, there's a pandemic, and we've been asked to shut down by the government. So, yes, obviously it was a very emotional time because the property was just open. But yeah, about 5 years now successfully open and operational, and we've learned a great deal in a short period of time.
And you just got a Michelin key, so congratulations.
We did. That feels like a huge responsibility, I guess, is the right. We were so excited about the opportunity. I sort of put it out in the universe about 8 to 12 months ago, and I was like, Bryan, I'd love to get this. And he's like, well, you'll see, because it's like a mystery shopper that comes to your property. But lo and behold, we found out about a week ago from our team. They called us from Bahamas, and they had just heard the announcement from Paris where they host the events live, and we were all screaming on the phone and so excited. So
I'm curious about that just quickly, because I'm like, this is so interesting. We've never had anyone with a Michelin key here. It's like, what do? You said they sent a secret shopper, and are there like a list of things that you have to hit in order to get it?
Yes, there is. For the Michelin key, a lot of people know, obviously, like a Michelin star with restaurants, right? And it's the same thing that
everyone's seen Ratatouille, right? Where Anton Van Ego comes in for dinner, and that's That's essentially what we had at the hotel.
It is, and you all guess who could potentially be the guest that has stayed with us that may have been their sort of secret shopper. But it is a combination of just design and function. It's really looking at the environment in which the property exists and how that is all taken into account. But you are at that top tier. It's the top 10% of the world. Wow. And for us to have received the Michelin Key, like I said, is a large responsibility even moving forward. It's about your team and consistency and what you can offer a guest every single moment of their stay with you.
Well, now the pressure's on. It's now we've got one.
Now you got to keep it.
We got to keep it.
So do they send someone back every so often to like check up on
annual
you?
certification?
Yes, it is.
But you know what? That speaks to the culture you've created there more than anything else, because you have empowered the people in your team to take great care of your guests, and it is reflected in the fact that you have this accolade that so many others have not been able to earn.
Yeah. And this was a huge turning point, I think, for our team as well, because we met with the team, and our staff is from the island, local, right? And we're 18 small settlements. There's not a street light on the entire island.
There's one. There's one.
Sure, there is
by Tony's Bar.
You're right. Tony's Bar. That's how we know it. But even to bring our team together and explain what the Michelin Key means, we said, the skills that you're building here with our team, you can take anywhere in the world. And I think for them, their eyes opened, and we sort of listed some of the other properties globally that received a Michelin Key. And I'm like, you are now at par with this. If you want to travel and explore, like the world has now been opened up in a way that it never was for you. And I think
a feather in their CV, yeah.
Exactly. I think it's an incredible opportunity for many people that don't even have a passport and have never left South Andros. So we're very excited.
The culinary equivalent of Beaumler approved. So.
Well, and we have an incredible new chef and Sue and the F&B department that have come in that came from a Michelin rated restaurant in Barbados. So that's the next goal, is the key, the star.
Yeah, the star. Yeah. See. And continue to grow. I don't like to get bored. So I'm always like, what's next? What can we continue to do and achieve?
And I'm sure in your construction company, you've had accolades along the way too, which have been the same thing. You create the culture and the award-winning project, the award-winning company, and so forth like that. And now that breed, it's a responsibility, as you said. That's a big thing.
And I think, well, and you've been a part of it. You're part of the association and the circle and the accolades you've received in Vancouver. And I think for us, we've talked about this before, it comes down to integrity at the end of the day. It comes down to why do I want to be in building, construction, development, hospitality, whatever. And ultimately it's because I want to show up when I told them I'll be there. I want to do what I said that I will do. I want to clean up at the end of the day, cash the check, pay my taxes, go for a beer with a homeowner, and have a bunch of great referrals and do it again. It really boils down to the basics of, what do you want to do? Do you want to just make money, or do you want to do something that is of value to society and going forward, and you can create a legacy that goes on? And I think that's what Sarah and I have been focused on with, developing and down in the Bahamas and the next plans as well. And I think that's what it all boils down to, is what, when you're not here and the conversations about you happen, how do you want those to go?
Yeah. And just want to give you a little shout out, because we talked about their award, but you just won a Haven's Interior Designer of the Year. We have a partner company, Emphasis Architecture and Design Studios. So congratulations on that as well.
Yeah, we're very excited. And again, it's the culture. We've been Renovator of the Year. We've been Custom Builder of the Year, and then to now be a Designer of the Year. That is really, really cool. It's like the key and the star.
I love it.
Yeah.
It speaks to the process and the culture you've created as well. And that's really, really crucial in creating a successful company that creates great results. Anyone can build a house. How well, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But to do it properly with a proper managed process, to make sure that we're respectful of budgets and everything else, that's one of the things that you do so well. And always grateful for that leadership for the rest of this industry as well. And speaking of building houses, we should probably talk a little about that too.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone online talking about how energy efficient and net zero houses are not legit and we don't need all that. And I respectfully disagreed.
It depends how much money you want to waste over the lifespan of your home.
Yeah, exactly. But because people think that there's compromises associated with that. You have to give up on the design elements in the home. Can you give us some examples that prove those people wrong, please, respectfully?
Well, I think we talk about building in sort of all different ways. I know Bryan talks about the building envelope in particular and things that we can do really to create a healthy environment from the outside in and through the whole process of just interiors, but also on with respect to the products that you're bringing into the home once the framework is there. And that's where I sort of lean in. And for me, I've spent the last few years actually becoming much more knowledgeable about the products that we're bringing into the home, especially with children, about understanding off-gassing of products that we're bringing in, about looking into small, simple things that really affect our internal nervous system and how we can build homes that we're not necessarily changing the design elements that we want to put in, but we're really looking internally within our own health within the home. And I think that's something too that we can continue to grow and lean into. We've spent a lot of time talking about the building envelope and what we can do for healthy air quality and things like that. But I'm also now leaning into the interiors and how we can expand that for healthy lifestyles.
And being in the Caribbean, how has that really influenced the health of design? Because I know, like, when you're looking at like the way that they wake up with the sun, your circadian rhythm, they don't have as much, like you said, one light bulb on the street. They don't have like that blue light constantly in their face. Like, did you use any of that stuff to like inspire the way that you think about health in design or building?
Definitely. It was actually the time when we were there with the kids during the pandemic. And it was because everything shut down, in all honesty. And we had that really raw look at what everyday life looked like for our children, what they were doing to keep themselves occupied and busy. But also then it gave us an opportunity to sort of rise with the sun and go to sleep with the sun. And we started to see these patterns when everyone back home in Canada was masked up and really fearful. We had a family that was thriving.
Our entire schedule changed.
It did.
We, at 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night, was fast asleep.
Fast asleep.
That sounds awesome, though.
5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, it's awake. And like, let's walk down the beach, watch the sun come up, grab a coffee. And it was like a natural thing that happened. So that's when we started to learn, like, okay, it's not just about, the really important part, and, Graeme and I have talked about this a lot, is from the face of the drywall to the outside of the home, the efficiency, the way it's built, as close to passive, that's incredibly important for longevity and cost of ownership and maintenance and things going forward. But from the other side, it's how do you live in that house and how healthy? What are you consuming? What are you breathing? What are you, that whole thing. And I think that's something in society right now that's really, a lot of people are focused on longevity and health. And, those last 20, 30 years, what's that quality of life going to be? And it's now that you're making the investment now for what you're going to get later in life. So that's something I think that's shifting in design.
That's one positive that came out of pandemic years. Is there's this post-pandemic wellness boom. We're now thinking about things. Like, I'll give you an example. In 2019, we would go to a birthday party and someone would blow out the cake and spit all the candles. We'd go, yeah, it's eat a slice. We do things like, I'm going into work, I got a bit of a cold. That's gone. And so now what we're doing is looking at our houses very differently. And it's not just a home, it's a sanctuary. It's a wellness hub as well.
Exactly.
I want to talk a little bit more about the healthy home, because that's probably one of the most important conversations we could have. I know design is important. It's extremely important. But if we're not healthy, who cares how it looks?
Well, and design has a huge, that is how you design the inside of a home, the materials you use, the things that is design.
Even the lighting that balances our circadian
100%.
rhythm, right?
So you're walking on too,
exactly.
or touching
and breathing. So Graeme and Bryan, Sarah talked to us about healthy homes. From your perspective as builders, what should I be looking at to build a healthy home for my next project? Like, what are the key things I need to consider for that?
Well, outside of what you put in the house and the envelope, as Bryan talked about, your mechanical system also needs to reflect what you need to have a healthy environment, what you breathe, you mentioned. So not just in terms of ventilation, but also purification. So there's a lot of good technology that's available to allow the air that we breathe in the house to be healthier. And because a lot of homes, especially existing homes, it's actually a terrible environment that most people live in inside their homes because of how they've been built or not. what the mechanical situation is in the home, and then the various off-gassings, and then just their livelihood. So since the pandemic, I think the number one thing we have been asked about is how can I have a healthier environment? People cocooned, they went to their houses and they go, I want that environment to be safe. And that's one of the things that we've focused on more, already were prior to the pandemic, but definitely since.
Yeah. It even comes down to, I mean, Sarah and I read an article not too long ago about, scents in your home. The plug-in thing in the walls that are just boiling chemicals that you smell, and cleaning products. Yeah. And, there was part of it, I don't want to quote the exact number, but it was like, if you're cleaning your home every day with these various products, you might as well smoke a pack a day. So some of that stuff is really important too. It's the materials and everything, the off-gassing. And as Graeme mentioned, in our first home in Oakville, we put a IQ air filter in, like a additional filtration in the home, and the ppm, the parts per million in the air of particulate, went down almost zero, because the air was always being circulated, filtered, and we noticed, we were like, no one's sick, no one's getting sick, or the sniffles, it was just such a clean environment that was great, and we noticed a difference.
Yeah, the home is there for that rest and recovery, yet we don't look at our home in that way always. You know what I mean? We're looking at, how I'm setting up my kitchen and my living room, etc. But it's really how your body is naturally progressing through different times of the day and allowing yourself to rest and reset. And I think we're talking about it a lot more. We're talking about function in the home, how you move about each space, and also designating zones that feel good at different times of day depending on the natural light in the space. And they're small things. So I think what I'm trying to encourage people as well in conversations like this is it doesn't mean you have to tear down your home or start again. These are simple acts that you can do in your home every day to improve your quality of life for your family as well. And I think that's really important to discuss, that it isn't like, okay, everyone, we have to start again. It's like, well, what are some little things that you can do to improve the overall envelope within the home?
And it's not just about like the design of the home, it's what you're bringing into it as well, like furniture, accessories and stuff. I know, Sarah, that you don't like the word trendy, which I don't really either, because it's that fast fashion kind of culture of like, oh, I'll bring in another pillow or another pillow. But where did that pillow come from? Again, like everything has smells. Like my dad is highly allergic now. He's one of those people that he can't have like any scent anywhere. And so like my mom will bring stuff into the house and he's like, I can't do it. But we don't think about that.
No, we don't. And we're still promoting. I think there's been such a strong conversation the last decade about fast fashion and the impact on our environment, yet no one has dug into that with respect to home. We're still promoting going to these big box stores, selecting things for every season and every holiday. And then what do you do after 2 weeks later, the holiday's done and you pack it all up and we're like, that's still living like you've still brought that into your home. It's still harming your family, but then it's also harming the environment as a whole. Like fast fashion exists for the home, but no one is talking about it, and we need to.
It's the loot bag mentality.
Yes, right, exactly.
When we first got married and had kids, Sarah and the moms, God bless them, would say, "Oh, it's a birthday party. I'm gonna get your loot bags," and I absolutely no loot bags.
Yes, our kids never had loot bags.
Just drive to the dump and throw some money in the dump if you want, and light something plastic on fire, and you've accomplished the same thing as buying a loot bag for a kid. So everyone talks about cost, right? Because the loot bag idea is like the dollar store fashion design, whatever it may be. People will always come to Graeme and I know in some of the talks, and they'll say, "Oh, but buying these healthy things is expensive, or building an efficient home is expensive." Today it is. I mean, right now that expense is there. But if you start with a home that is hyper efficient, as costs increase, your savings are exponential. If you don't, your expenses are exponential. I say all the time, choosing a roof that's going to burn out in 10 or 15 years, that's a $50,000 roof instead of a $100,000 lifetime roof. Yep. When you have to replace that, it's not 50, it's now 100. And when you have to replace that again, it's not 100, it's 150 or 200. So those expenses are going to be exponential in the future. So doing your building envelope properly now saves you that money that you will have to spend on the more expensive things inside the home as you go forward, which will save you money, again, exponential savings as the costs of energy and power materials go up.
Well, and I think the other thing people get hung up on, and you probably see this as well, Graeme, is size. Everyone thinks they need a big house. And I know, Bryan, you've said in the past, size doesn't matter. Efficiency matters.
I mean, I said that, but we did. I mean, the last home we built was 17,500. So it's kind of like, size doesn't matter. It's more, size matters to your budget. So there is a way, and now, unfortunately, people want, they want it big, they want it shiny, and they want it built really well. And you really have to choose two, if you want it, and if you want it affordable as well. So if you can afford the size, but to build it well, great. If you can't, there are ways to make things smaller, design better. Some of the homes we're doing now have 36-inch doors and openings everywhere. So you can age in the home. Your internal walls, you can plan them non-load bearing or structural, so you can move things around. But it's the building envelope that can last.
Well, that's something you said last time you were here. Mm-hmm. You said stop wasting money on pretty looking design things and start investing in the bones of the home. I've never forgotten that. And that's still very powerful and sage advice.
It comes down to, if you have cancer, the cosmetics don't matter. Get treated, get healthy, and then worry about the cosmetics. That's what people do. You have to look at your home like that too. If your home is sick, heal your home and put the makeup on tomorrow. Every night the makeup comes off, and every morning you can put new stuff on. But it's the person, the body, the home itself that you have to make sure is well.
Well, what would be great is to continue this conversation. But first, we have to thank our amazing sponsors. So give us a couple moments. We'll be right back, and we're going to dig into some of the stuff we just talked about.
All right.
Measure Twice, Cut Once is grateful to our podcast partners, Fortis BC, BC Housing, and Trail Appliances. Support from our partners helps us share expert knowledge and resources with families looking to build, design, and renovate home right for you. For BC Housing, creating access to housing solutions that meets everybody's needs is a guiding principle. BC Housing is working with governments, nonprofits, First Nations, and residential construction industry members to create practical solutions to BC's housing challenges. To learn more about BC Housing initiatives, programs, and services, go to bchousing.org. And we all need reliable and efficient equipment for better comfort, health, and safety of our homes. Whether you want to adopt some energy-saving habits or take on a major energy efficiency upgrade, Fortis BC can help you save energy. Be sure to go to fortisbc.com, where you can also find amazing tips on low and no-cost ways to save energy, plus great information on what Fortis BC is doing on low-carbon energy solutions. Trail Appliances makes everyday life better with the best selection in Western Canada. Hassle-free delivery and a price match guarantee. You'll always get the best deal. At Trail Appliances, you'll love buying an appliance as much as you'll love using it. Affordable, accessible, quality housing is a top-of-mind issue for many British Columbians.
Welcome back. We're going to change gears a little bit. We're still going to be talking about wellness, and we're still going to be talking about design, but we're going to talk about a specific part of it. Sarah, I want to start with you, actually. We often talked about Windows technology for energy efficiency and how we keep our homes comfortable. Can you talk about some technologies that you're seeing out there on the design side that are allowing for more natural light and better performance in the home?
For sure. I think when we have started the conversation around connecting the health and the home, it really started with understanding our nervous system. And I have had the opportunity to work with some incredible doctors and scientists and just understanding how much of an impact natural light has on our own home and how to reduce blue light. So now we've seen this switch with some of the wonderful fixtures that we're seeing within a home. Gone are the days of just throwing up beautiful pot lights, but now we can actually incorporate lighting that changes during different times of day. So it actually progresses from a blue light to a natural warm light as the day progresses as well. So your home automatically senses that it's time for you to wind down, that it's time for your internal clock to start to wind down. And I think that's really important in an aspect of sort of where we're seeing growth in the market that I think people should continue to lean into. When we talk about natural lighting, obviously you guys have this beautiful studio here with a ton of natural light. But I think we've also looked at it as how we can integrate natural lighting into specific spaces in the home. So where we would used to just do a traditional window package, we're now looking at where we have different sort of aspects of the home that we're using as a home gym or a home office or a bedroom, and designing the lighting to actually match the function of that space. So for example, we would look at a home gym and we'd say, okay, this is where we're going actually from the fitness perspective, where we want to have energy, where our internal system needs to be sort of ramped up, what we need for natural light to feel awake and motivated to be able to perform at our best, versus a space like our bedroom, where we want to look at integrating some potentially blinds that set naturally on timers to start to dim, our pot lights or our sconces, again, changing to a warm light at night. That's a space of recovery. So what works in one room doesn't work in the other. And I think when you work with a designer or you work with a builder, that conversation with your homeowner really needs to be at the forefront of the construction design process, and understanding what products you can integrate to what specific space in the home, depending on its use and its function.
There's times you want some energy in the bedroom, though. I mean, it's not all about.
Well, what kind of podcast
It's
is
not
this?
all about winding down to go to
Your
sleep.
conversation about audio and video working together.
We've done a lot of. Sarah's kind of integrated a lot of skylights, especially the solar powered, vented skylights, which help us too with airflow in the home.
Natural airflow.
Sun tunnels in areas that there aren't for natural lighting, with the blackout covers on them, like some really nice ways to incorporate natural light into internal spaces of the home.
And looking where blue light is used, unfortunately, right now we have a generation where laptops, phones, iPads, there is technology everywhere in the home. And how we can sort of create designated spaces for that where you can protect yourself from all the EMFs that are emitted. And I think that's really important as well, how you're protecting specific rooms within the home where technology is at its highest.
Well, now you're speaking my love language, and this is something maybe we don't know enough of. In the morning, the sun is 10,000 degrees Kelvin. It makes us have energy and all that other stuff. We look at this device at night, it's 9,000 degrees Kelvin. So we're trying to wind down for the night, and it tells us
ramping up.
Make energy. And we wonder why we have issues with chronic sleep issues in our society. We wonder why we have a chronic shortage of melatonin, because they're not following advice that you're giving about sleep hygiene. And as a result, collectively, we're paying for it. That's a challenge. Now, I do have a question to follow up, because I know Jen's got a bunch of important questions too. But here's my question. You just talked about the wellness and how those windows make us feel. For our builders in the room, how do you balance the performance and structural elements of those windows with the how it makes you feel elements of those windows?
Yeah. A big part of that comes in design too. If you're designing passively and depending where you are, multi-pane, thicker windows, properly installed. I mean, it's an area of heat loss for sure. But I mean, on the West Coast here, where there's times of year where you don't get a ton of, you may get some of that liquid sunshine and some darkness of cloud.
Like today, it's coming around.
But on a passive design, how are you utilizing that on the West Coast here? Because we have plenty of sun and heat, to the east or down south, but.
Well, I mean, in window design too, there's lots of different technology in terms of different coatings, and you may do different types of glass assemblies on a north face than you would maybe on a south face. Just like if you're incorporating skylights or overhead glass, that also is going to have different types of technology.
Right.
And then interior wise, you talked about lighting and you talked about degrees of Kelvin. So now we have tunable light bulbs.
Genius. So exciting.
So, you've got the RGB and you've got tunable, and you can actually change, and they can change not just that one light bulb, but throughout the whole house different times of day, different types of spaces. And also it makes your house look different. So a lot of times when people spend money on furnishings, cabinetry, flooring, and they see it in a showroom and then they have it installed at home, it looks different. And they don't know why, and it really comes down to that balance of light and what type of light you're putting in the home.
Yeah, lighting's a vibe. Even our daughter Jojo has some LED setups in her rooms, and depending on the colors and the intensity of the light, it's a totally different vibe when you walk in there. You're like, oh, this is going to be a nice chat, or you walk in there, oh, somebody's angry. It can really set up the
really
mood.
affects your emotions.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I hate going into places with a lot of like fluorescent light. You're just like, ugh. You're like, you feel like you've done something wrong.
Yes.
Like they've got a spotlight on you and you're like, I can't do this. So we've talked a little bit about this before the break. And I know we've talked about it in past conversations, Bryan, but when you talk to homeowners, again, how do you kind of give them the expectations and frame up the long-term vision that like investing in energy efficient upgrades is actually going to save them money in the long run?
I find it simpler as I get older, because we're guiding our own kids, and our two older kids have had that conversation. We're like, one day I want to be able to afford to buy a home. How am I ever going to do that? Or talking to people about making the right decisions on where they spend their money. And I think it's very simple. If you build a home properly, or if you make the right decisions take a standard home in the market, if we looked at any home in Vancouver and said, okay, we want to take this template, but I want to spend $300, $400, $500 a month less over the life of this home, operating it, maintaining it, replacing materials, and we back that up right to the beginning design stage and decide how we're going to do things. Take that savings and invest it. And with compound, I just had this conversation with Quentin. Mm-hmm. By the time you're my age, with this $400 invested properly, compounded, you're a multimillionaire by the time you've paid the mortgage off on your home. And I think we have to put it into really simple terms for people, because a lot of people, and especially until you get a little older, don't have that foresight of like, oh, if I'd done this 10 years ago, like where I'd be right now. And I think there comes a point, especially with Canadians now and the way housing is gone and the way it's going, that 80% of Canadians under 40 have given up on home ownership. We have to turn around and someone has to say to them, your eyes have been bigger than your wallets. You want big and shiny. You're leasing a luxury car. This is all stuff you cannot afford. The old days of I'll just pay my mortgage off, sell the house so I can, afford to retire. Those days are gone, because people can't afford to buy the house in the first place. So we have to rewrite exactly what we see as value in a home, and where that value comes from, and build in the health of the home with that, so that we have a stockpile of housing 50 years from now that is more valuable than the pile of disposable homes that are up for that need more money to repair them than we do to build them.
Well, you gave us a great story last time when we kind of talked about this, and you said that your son wanted to get a boat, but he wanted a really fancy boat, and you're like,
He still does, yeah.
Well, sorry to out you, but you say start like a home.
Yeah.
Start with something first that you can afford and build up to it, because you said too much of us are in this keeping up with the Joneses thing because of social media, which we would have never been able to know before what people owned, but now we can look on Instagram right now and see all these things that are out of reach for a lot of people.
But imagine if the conversations with your neighbor were like, well, I only spent $40 last month operating my home. You spent $600. I'm cooler.
And that's today's hydro rates and today's environmental conditions. Let's wait till we get a Toronto-like summer.
Double, triple those costs, and your savings or your expenses are multiplied.
We actually had a couple here in the podcast a couple years ago where we built a net zero home for them in Vancouver, and they actually make money from their house. So they actually are getting a rebate check every year. not paying even the $40.
Yeah.
Because the house has been built right, and then we added solar to a well-built home, not just solar for the sake of solar. And yeah, they're zero and getting a rebate check. So,
well, that's the big thing with solar, wind generation, any of that stuff. You know, people buy it to offset the losses they have. It's like owning I think I've used this example before. It's having a boat with a hole in it and you buy a pump. Just fix the hole. Then, you know, when you put a solar panel on to offset the inefficiency of your home, you're spending money to you know, kind of buy that pump. But if you buy a solar panel on a home that's barely using it, all of a sudden you're making money.
Yeah.
Like you can turn your home into a revenue generator that you can, you know, offset the cost of ownership and invest that and make money.
Now, those are the Joneses that I want to keep up with because they're saving money and I want to save money.
Well, put it in practical terms, I have a friend who's part of this organization built a 6,000 square foot passive home. And I said, what are your heating and cooling costs? He goes, about 160. And I said, that's about what I pay a month. He goes, no, Mike, a year.
Yeah.
And that was those rates 3 or 4 years ago. And so many other benefits that come as a result. We hear a lot of myths about energy efficient houses, right? There's a lot of disinformation. There's also a lot of terms that are being used, passive, net zero. At the end of the day, though, energy efficiency is energy efficiency. I'd love to ask our builders about some examples that you can share about success stories with energy efficient homes, because there's all these myths going around. Maybe we could put a few of them to rest today by sharing some of your good experience. I mean, Graeme just shared a great one, that lovely couple who was in here.
They were great.
Yeah, but like that's at that style of home. But even not building a full passive home, we can still increase our efficiency.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So can you share some examples where people have done that at different styles of building so that, you know, we can scale it in our own homes, in our own backyards?
Yeah, I mean, a big one I tell people before you do anything is have an energy audit done on your home. Identify the areas, and a lot of our customers that want renos done, we've done that. And the very first thing you look at, it's same thing like, you know, I want to go in and get new, I was going to say a haircut, but that doesn't work for me. You. But before you do that, you know, maybe go to the doctor, make sure you're not sick. That's the kind of idea. And when we built, you know, our first home and kind of developed our procedure. When we build, we say, this is how we build, because I don't want the phone call in 5 or 10 years that it, you know, it's not done the right way. This is our procedure. We built a 6,000 square foot custom where our furnace, I mean, I'd go downstairs every couple of days just to make sure the thing was working, because it never turned on, because it didn't have to. So we spent, you know, I think it was $50 a month in electrical and gas on that home to operate. So even if cost triple, it's $150 a month to operate a 6,000 square foot home. And that's great.
And it's $1,000 if you don't have that technology infrastructure here right now.
Yeah.
Bungalow. Remember you always
the bungalow, we were $600 or $700 a month. Wow. But single pane windows, no insulation, plaster, you know.
Well,
we just watch the money.
We also have much less expensive power here as well, which currently we'll see how we are in 2035.
Yep. So Bryan mentioned an energy audit if you're renovating a home. So we make that sort of a mandatory. People sort of laugh at me. They would call me to put a new kitchen in, and one of my check boxes is, we are encouraging you to get an energy audit. And they go, that's not what we're talking about.
That's not what I'm here for.
But the understanding where that comes from. So an energy advisor is federally licensed and trained. And they not only help you diagnose what's wrong with your house now, if it's a renovation, but during the build process, they assist the builder making sure they're on track, on the targets that you're aiming for. And then at the end, they can certify your home and tell you what that actual energy evaluation, you get an energy guide number on your home, whether it's renovated or new. And then if you choose to have further certifications, like we talked about, passive certification, net zero certification, built green certification, then that's the added value that they are able to provide as well. But that energy advisor isn't meant to be at the end of the job. They're meant from the start, help diagnose, help design, and they are part of the design team and that integrated design process.
Is that something, even though I'm not looking at a renovation right now, is that something I should still think of so I understand how my house works and where my weak points are?
100%.
So, you know, there's a couple, you mentioned health, things in Vancouver you can do. You can go get a full body MRI. don't need anything wrong with you. Just get a full body MRI, and they'll do a complete diagnostics from an MRI perspective on where your body's at. They can detect early stages of cancer, all these different things. So it's preventative. You're getting knowledge that you can now share with your physician or your health, and look at long term where you're at now. Develop a baseline. So an energy guide or having an energy evaluation on your home is that you're figuring out what's the baseline of my existing home, and now you can make plans rather than projects of what you want to do with your home over time. Because most people, they have projects and they start off cosmetically. Usually, I want the bathroom to look better, the kitchen to look better. But if they can actually figure out the health of their home, where the baseline is, now they can make decisions going forward that help them, rather than wait for the furnace to fail and then they call a furnace guy who just sells another almost mid-efficient, almost inefficient furnace just to solve or band-aid the situation.
You build a home that doesn't need a furnace, you know, and
and hopefully a home that can be passed along to generations, which we haven't seen for a while. We've been building homes that unfortunately we cannot pass down to our children.
borderline disposable housing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that is people have maybe just become more aware of the situation and the ability to say, okay, this is my grandparents' home and now I'm going to live in it, and then my children. That's where we need to be thinking again and making sure that we're putting steps in place to make sure that can happen.
We also have to change the mindset too, though, because there are people out there that are like, oh, I just want to get a home and build a brand new one or do this because, again, keeping up the Joneses, like, I got to look like I have lots of money and I'm building this big home. And it's like, we got to change it. I'd be like, no, buy a home from someone that's already had it for 40 years and it's going to continue to last. And maybe you should do some tweaks and things like that. But still, with social media and things, I feel like there are a lot of people out there that their mind isn't there quite yet.
When people's I think when we're back to the feudal system and 95% of the population doesn't own a home, and you won't be allowed to buy a home because the corporations aren't going to sell the homes back to us, that's when the masses are going to go, maybe we should have done it a little differently. So I think we can get ahead of that. And some of it will be looking at, putting more focus or not pressure, but education around multi-generational housing, where it's like, come together, build this thing, and we can expand from there and, multi-properties. But it's certainly, I think, again, like Graeme said, when you do that energy audit to start off with, like, identify the baseline, that's where, because people do value the marble countertop more than they do the $40 heating bill. But if you show them on paper and do the math, well, that $40 heating bill is a $250 savings from your neighbor, and over time, here's how many marble countertops that buys. That, I think, is where we have to go and just put the numbers on the table.
Then you shift that mindset of people wanting it. Yeah.
Well, it feels like we have to shift the mindset from having this great conversation to wrapping it up because we only have so much time, but I'm going to go ahead and extend an invitation and come back at a later date because we really enjoy these conversations.
Well, we should do it live from the resort.
Yeah, I feel like our next
that
episode
idea.
should be remote.
Measure twice, cut once on the beach.
But at the end of the day, all three of you are incredibly busy people. So for you to take time out of your day to share your insight and knowledge with us is greatly appreciated, not only by us here, but by everyone who watches this show and benefits from the knowledge that you share with them. And there was so much we learned today. We talked about efficiency versus design, healthier homes. I love the part where we talked about lighting because that's near and dear to my heart. And at the end of the day, what we've taken away is some great insight that can help us make decisions when it's time for us to plan our next project. So locally, we call someone like Graeme to do the project. We're asking him the right questions, which means it gives him more information to help create a great solution path for us. All right. Great conversation.
And you guys already gave us so many great tips, and we'll start with Graeme. Give us one more tip for the homeowner.
One more tip for the homeowner. Do your homework. Hire the right team, have an integrated design process with that team so that you're not just starting off with an architect, getting to the end of that process, then starting with a designer, and then starting with a builder. It should be an integrated design process that everyone's on the conversation at the very beginning, and that's how you end up with the best result and the best value, too, on your dollars spent.
I agree with that. That's wonderful. And I think also one thing to add is you have to be honest about how you live in your space. So it does, before you start any build, any renovation, you really need to lay out what's important for you and how you function within your home and write that down. Keep a calendar, what rooms you're in at what time of day, how you're feeling in those spaces, and whether or not you are still on your phone at 11 o'clock at night in bed and what that means for your body. And I think understanding your daily rhythm will allow a designer, your contractor, everyone to help put a plan in place that will better suit a healthy home environment.
Yeah, and my tips are pretty simple. Listen to your parents. 'Cause we're
Is that for your daughter that's here?
well, I know, not just for her.
no.
But we're at the stage of our life where I'm like, oh God, now okay, they knew what they were talking about. The advice, that kind of thing. And my second piece, if you're in the Lower Mainland, you're considering doing something with your home, call Graeme. It's a pretty simple one. I mean, it's a full, soup to nuts, one-stop shop. Get that energy audit done. Share what your budget is, and let a professional, let the doctor diagnose and come up with a treatment plan.
Thank you for
Dr.
saying
Graeme.
that, Dr. Graeme. I also have some advice for homeowners as well, if I may, and that is after you've done all those things and got your home renovated and follow all this great advice, you're probably going to go in your backyard and barbecue something for your friends and family, and we want to help with that as well. So if you like this episode, share this episode, tell your family, friends, even people you meet on the street randomly. You could win a beautiful Napoleon Prestige P500 stainless steel natural gas barbecue, courtesy of our friends at Fortis BC. All you got to do is go to havan.ca/measure twice, cut once, and it could be you having all of us over for a barbecue next spring.
There we go. And remember,
That's good.
remember, hit follow, stay connected, and never miss an episode. Thanks to our partners, Trail Appliances, Fortis BC, BC Housing, Ramey Films, JPod Creations, and AI Technology and Design.
And don't forget HAVAN, the Home Builders Association of Vancouver, of which most of us are proudly members, and it is proudly affiliated with CHBA BC at the provincial level, CHBA National at the national level, and so that everybody in this industry is working together, collaborating, and sharing knowledge, but like this behind closed doors, for the benefit of our collective group that we work with, which is the homeowners in Vancouver market.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, and see you next time on Measure Twice, Cut Once.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And come to the Bahamas.
Yeah.